Hi there, in this video we are going to learn about geometry creation and network navigation. Before proceeding with this lesson, please be sure you have already seen the previous videos about key concepts and interface, because in this lesson we'll be building on this knowledge. Let's start by making some adjustments to the desktop. At the moment I have the build preset selected. Let's display the minimize left pane, go to the divider and click on the tiny gray triangle to restore the pane. Now let's swap the tree view with the scene view by clicking on the tiny dotted line at the center of the divider. Let's also swap the right panes. Let's resize the scene view pane by dragging the divider. The next step is optional. I'm going to close all the tabs that are not being displayed. The next step is also optional. Go to the bar menu and select Edit, then Preferences, then General User Interface. In this window, activate the Color Pane Header with Network Context option. Click on Apply and Accept. This adds some color to the pane headers according to the context. Let's save this desktop. Go to the Desktop drop-down menu and select Save Current Desktop As. Enter a name and click on the Save button and then in the OK button. We're ready to start, but why this layout? If you remember, Houdini's networks are like a computer's file system, where networks are like folders and nodes are like files. Here you can see the Windows Explorer, and on the left side we have the folder structure, and on the right side you can see the folders or files. Now, in Houdini, in the tree view, we also have a structure. In this case, it is a network and nodes structure. Now, on the right top pane, we have the network editor. It displays what is selected on the tree view. Unlike the Windows Explorer, here we have another level of information. In the right bottom pane, the parameters pane displays the parameters and options for the selected node in the network editor or the tree view. Understanding the similarity between the File Explorer and Houdini's structure will help you quickly understand navigation in networks. Before we start creating something, it is important to know how to save your work. As in any other application, you could go to the menu and select File and then Save As. Now select a location, enter a name, click Accept, and your file is saved. For a simple scene, it could be okay. But usually, working in Houdini involves creating intermediate geometry files, simulation data files, digital assets, flipbooks, and of course the render images. So, most of the time it is better to set a project. And setting a project in Houdini is simply defining one main folder to save your Houdini scene or scenes, and several subfolders to save additional data. Let's set up a project. Go to the main menu and select File, then New Project. In this window, you set the project name. Let's type Project 01. By default, the path is set to your home directory, where home is your Documents folder in your user folder. You can see the full path here. If necessary, you can change the path by clicking on this icon and selecting any folder you wish. In the next section of this window, we can see the folders to be created. And, if necessary, you can uncheck the folders you're not going to need. Additionally, as needed, you can create custom folders. Let's activate one custom folder and give it a name. Click on the Accept button and our project is set. If we go to the File Explorer, we can check that the folder Project 01 has been created in my home directory, and it contains folders to save our data, including our custom folder. Now, if you use the Save As option in the File menu, the Save As dialog window points to our project folder. Here you can type a name for your file and click Accept to save it. Okay. How do we start creating something? In Houdini, you have two ways of interaction. The first one is by using the Shells tools in the scene view. This way is intuitive and works exactly as other 3D applications. You click on a button and you have a result. In the background, the tool creates all the necessary nodes and networks to achieve the required result. The second way is by creating nodes and networks directly in the network editor. This way is less intuitive, but instead is more flexible and powerful. In the tree view, we can see there is something in the compositing network. If we expand it, we can see there is an image network named comp1. Let's select the node and delete it by pressing the delete key. Now all 6 contexts are empty. Let's create a sphere. In the Shell dock, in the Create tab, click on the Sphere tool. Move the mouse pointer to the scene view and click in any place to locate the sphere. Press Ctrl+C to undo. That's one way. Now, again click on the Sphere tool, but this time just press Enter. The sphere is now placed at the center of the scene. Again, press Ctrl+C to undo. Let's check another way. Hold Ctrl and click the Sphere tool. The sphere is directly placed at the center in one click. There you are, your first geometry in Houdini. At the top of the scene view, in the operation controls, you have the main parameters for the sphere. If you hover your mouse over the radius parameter, you can see it has 3 components, radx, rady, and radz. To change them, you can type values directly in each field. Or you can place your cursor on any field and scroll your middle mouse button to change the values in 0.1 increments. Or you can middle click on any parameter. A value ladder is displayed. Now, by moving the mouse to the left or right, you increase or decrease the values. In the default position, it changes in 0.1 increments. But if you go upstairs, you can make increments of 1, 10, or 100 units. And if you go downstairs, you can make changes of 0.01, 0.001, or 0.0001. You can also use the value ladder on the parameter name to change all the values at the same time. The same process. Middle click on the parameter, select the step size, and drag left or right to change the values. In the scene view, you can see the object has transformation handles. You can use the axis handles to translate the object. Now, let's use the ring handles to rotate the object. At the moment, in the toolbox on the left side of the scene view, you can see currently the Show Handle tool is selected. But you can also select individual transformation tools. For instance, let's select the Move tool. Now you only get the translation handles. If you select the Rotation tool, you get the rotation handles only. And if you select the Scale tool, you get the scale handles only. Use the axis handles to change the scale along any axis. Now, if you use the small square between 2 axes, you can change the scale proportionally in 2 axes. You could also use the small cube at the center of the handles to change the scale proportionally in all axes. Instead of using the toolbox to select the type of handles you need, you can use the key shortcuts E, R, and T. E for scale handles, R for rotation handles, and T for translation handles. In the operation controls, we have lost our sphere parameters. To show them again, first select the object. To do this, use the black arrow in the selection tool on the toolbox. Click on the object and press Enter. There you are. Now, let's subdivide this geometry. With the geometry selected, go to the Polygon tab and select Subdivide. In the operation controls, let's play with the depth parameter. You can see the changes in the object. Okay, we have created our first geometry, made basic parameter changes, made basic object transformations, and modified the geometry, and all of that interactively in the viewport without worrying about nodes and networks. By the way, similar to other 3D applications, Houdini also gives you access to the shells tools and other functionalities directly in the viewport by using Radial Menus in the scene view. In the scene viewer, you can access these menus using the following keys: X, C, and B. The X key to access the snapping controls. You have grid, primitive, point, and multi-snapping. These are the same 4 snapping tools located in the toolbox: grid snapping, primitive snapping, point snapping, and multi-snapping. The C key by default to access common tools from the shells: create, model, terrains, effects, etc. For instance, to create another sphere, go to Create, then Geometry, and finally Sphere. Click on the viewport to place it, and there you are, a new sphere. Let's undo this using Ctrl+C. You can choose what tools are shown in this menu using the Radial drop-down menu located in the menu bar. Here you can select a preset according to the required task. Finally, the V key to access the view controls: selection options, selection tools, shading display, and viewport layout. Of course, working in the viewport is intuitive and a quick start, but for getting the most of Houdini, it is essential to understand what happens in the background. So let's check the panes. In the tree view, let's select the OBJ context. You can see in the object network there is an object called Sphere Object 1. If you select it in the network editor, the Parameters tab displays its options and properties. In this case, we have transformation properties, translation, rotation, and scale for the object, and also translation and rotation for the pivot. But where are the parameters for the sphere and for the subdivision we made? They are not here because of the Sphere Object 1 is not a sphere, but just a geometry container with transformation properties. We better rename it by clicking on the name. Let's name it Object Container because that's what it is. At the moment it contains a sphere, but it can contain any geometry type or even any type of network. In the tree view, you can see there are 2 nodes below the object container. Let's select the sphere 1 in the tree view. Now we are inside the object container, and the network editor also displays what is inside the object container. The same with the Subdivide 1 node. If we click on the Sphere 1 node in the tree view or the network editor, now the Parameters tab shows the parameters for the Sphere 1. If we click on the Subdivide 1 node, now the Parameters tab shows the parameters for the Subdivision node. You can see the tree view is a great help to understand how the information is organized and also to navigate the network. But in the network editor, you also have options to navigate the network. At the object level, select the object container in the network editor. To dive inside, press the I key. You are in the geometry level now. To go up 1 level, press the U key. You have returned to the object level. Easy. I to dive inside, U to go up. To dive inside, you can also double-click the node. Similar to a file explorer, in the network editor, you also have an address bar with the current path. At the moment, we are inside OBJ and inside Object Container. This address bar can also be used to navigate. For instance, let's move to another context. Click and hold on OBJ and select Matte. Now we are in the matte context. Let's return to OBJ. Click and hold on Matte and select OBJ. Now let's select the contents at the OBJ level. Click and hold on OBJ, select Contents, and then select the Object Container. to go inside this object. Now we are at the geometry level. To return to the OBJ level, click on the OBJ in the address bar. On the left side of the address bar, you have two arrows, and they work exactly like the arrows you use in a web browser to go back or forward one page. Here in Houdini, with the arrows, you navigate in the same way, jumping back or forward. On the right side of the address bar, you also have a menu to create and edit favorites or bookmarks. There are a lot of functionalities in the network editor, but what we have seen so far is enough for you to start. We already know how to navigate the data, but how to navigate the nodes inside the editor? Well, it is also quite easy. Let's dive inside the object container. Now you can use middle mouse button and drag to pan around, right mouse button and drag to zoom in or zoom out, scroll the middle mouse button also to zoom in or out. Let's move the nodes. Now select the Sphere 1 node, the G key to frame the selected node or nodes in the window. Press G and now the Sphere 1 node is framed in the network editor. The H key for framing all the nodes. Press H and both existing nodes are framed in the network editor. And the L key to automatically lay out the nodes. Press the L key and Houdini tries to rearrange the nodes. Press H to frame the nodes. The L key is quite important to rearrange complex networks, and it usually does a pretty good job. In the network editor, you have additional menus with many more features to help you managing and organizing nodes. Now, let's recreate what we have done so far, not using the shelf tools or radial menus, but creating nodes directly in the network editor. Let's go to the OBJ level by pressing the U key. Select the object container node and press the delete key to delete it. The node and its contents are deleted. You can check it in the tree view. In the network editor, the way to create nodes is by pressing the Tab key. This displays a menu with a list of available tools or nodes for the current context. The tools are organized by category so that you can navigate and select the tool or node you need. For instance, in the primitive menu, we can find the Sphere node. Click on it, and now click on the network editor. Let's check in the tree view, and there you are, a geometry container named Sphere 1 and inside a Sphere 1 node. The same we did using the shelf tool Sphere. Let's rename the object Sphere 1 as Object Container. Okay, now press I to dive inside. And if you select the Sphere 1, you can see in the parameter editor it was created as a primitive type. Let's change it to a polygon mesh. Now press the Tab key to display the Tab menu. The Tab menu here is different because the context is different. We are now in the geometry context, so we have different tools. In such a big amount of tools, how do we find the tool to subdivide the sphere? We could explore by category, going one by one, or trying to find out which category is more related. As subdivision treats with polygons, let's explore the polygon category. And there you are, the subdivide tool. Let's select the subdivide node and press delete to delete it. In the beginning, it takes some time, but once you get familiar with the tools, it is better to press Tab and then start typing the tool name. Then press Enter to select it and again Enter to place it in the network editor. Zoom out by scrolling the middle mouse. Move the subdivide 1 node and pan the view using the middle mouse button. Now let's create a box. Press Tab, then type box, enter and enter again. Done. Let's cover the basics of node flags and connections. Nodes may have input and output ports for connections, and you just simply click on a port and then drag to another port to make the connection. Flags represent some state information on the node. The flags are dependent on the network type you are. In this geometry context, we can see a node has 4 flags: display render flag, template flag, lock flag, and bypass flag. Let's review them. The display render flag displays the geometry in the viewport and also uses it for rendering. At the moment, the node Sphere 1 has the display flag. Let's select the box 1 and click on its display flag. The sphere disappears in the viewport and now the box is displayed. The template flag shows an overlay of this node in the viewport. Let's click on the Sphere 1 template flag. Now we have an overlay of the sphere in the viewport. Click again to hide the overlay. This is useful when you're working on a geometry node and you need another one as a reference or template. The bypass flag does that. It bypasses the node so that it is not calculated or taken into account in the network. Let's display the Sphere 1. Now, if we display the subdivide 1, we can see the effect of the node. The sphere has subdivisions. Now, if we click on the subdivide 1 bypass flag, the node is not calculated anymore and the sphere is not subdivided. Let's click again on the bypass flag to make it active again. The lock flag freezes geometry data at the current state and stops calculating the node. Let's control-click to toggle this flag. It seems that nothing changed, but the node is freeze. To check, you can even delete the Sphere 1, and you can see the node holds all the information about the geometry, and the geometry is still represented in the scene. Let's undo using Ctrl-C and remove the lock flag using Ctrl-click and clicking OK. Let's also select box 1 and delete it. We have spent some time on this because of the learning process, but finally we have the sphere with subdivisions, similar to what we did before using the shelf tools. Okay, we have covered the basics of creating geometry, network navigation, and nodes. There are still many additional features to explore, and in upcoming videos we'll be covering them as needed. Thank you for watching this video. I'll see you soon in the next one.